Good afternoon, students. Thank you or good morning, good afternoon, whenever it is you're watching. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are going to continue our review of naming and formula writing. Today's topic is molecular compounds. We are technically supposed to cover naming and formulas. I did not get to do it for my first 3 classes, and I doubt we're going to have time today in 5th period. So let's just focus today on the naming part. Tomorrow, I'll post a video where we're going to review formula writing. So again, this is a review presentation. You've already heard it. We're just going to review it right before you go on break. All right, so molecular compounds. You got to remember that molecular compounds are inorganic compounds that take the form of discrete molecules. And some very common examples that you're very familiar with is water and carbon dioxide, right? H2O and CO2. The atoms of a molecule share their valence electrons in such a way that a bond forms between the pairs of atoms. A binary molecular compound is a molecular compound composed of 2 elements. So, the thing that makes these molecular compounds different than what we talked about on Tuesday and Wednesday was that those were ionic. There were transferring of electrons from the metal to the non-metal. For these type of compounds, we are always going to be dealing with 2 nonmetals. Okay, they're easy to spot because it's always 2 nonmetals from the right side of your periodic table, right? On the right side, this is where we find all of our nonmetals. Okay, over here on the right. Hydrogen is one of the only nonmetals, or is the only nonmetal on the periodic table that you can find on the left side. All right, all the other nonmetals over here on the right. All right. The thing you always have to remember that I was telling you is that ionics transfer electrons. Molecular compounds will share electrons, and we call that a covalent bond, right? Anytime you're sharing your electrons, your valence electrons, that is going to be known as a covalent bond, okay? And any compound that has covalent bonds is known as a molecular compound, molecules. All right. And today is all about naming molecular compounds, okay? When you're naming molecular compounds, you got to remember that it's very similar to the process that we discussed for ionic, meaning you're not going to change the name of the first element, and the second element in the compound needs to change its ending to IDE. Okay, those are the same steps from yesterday, right? If we have 2 elements, a binary ionic compound, we wouldn't change the name of the first element, but the second element did change to IDE. Well, at least the ending would. We're sticking to those 2 rules. Do not change element number 1. Change the second element's ending to IDE. Now, we're going to add a third and very important rule. We're going to be now inserting prefixes to indicate the number of atoms of each element. Okay? So remember, anytime you have a formula, it's going to have subscripts, right? Even if they don't show a number, you got to remember if there is no number behind an element symbol, that just means that there's just one of them. Okay? So now those little subscripts are going to be made or changed into prefixes, which we have the list here: mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca. Okay? These are the prefixes that I'm talking about that the subscripts will change into. Whatever subscript you see, each of them has a prefix associated with it. All right? The only time that you're not going to use a prefix is if you have mono for the first element. Do not use mono for your first element. You can use it for your second element, but you should never start a name using the prefix mono. Okay? Let's keep that in mind. Let's discuss the example that we have here on the top right corner. So here you have in your first blue box, it says here that you have a formula for your compound, right? You have a formula for your compound, and your formula says that you have N2O3. N2O3. So name the first element. Do not change it. Name the second element, but be sure that you are including the ending of IDE. Your ending for this element, oxygen, should change to IDE. Okay? So let's go and let's see what they did. So, first element, it's called nitrogen. They didn't change it. Oxygen, once you drop the ending, changes into oxide. Rule 1 and rule 2, step 1 and step 2, done. Now, let's change the subscripts into prefixes, okay? So for nitrogen, you have a 2. If you look up 2 on our list, it's going to have a prefix of di. For oxygen, you have a subscript of 3, which translates into tri. And remember, prefix means that it comes before your name. Okay? Prefixes must come or be written before the name of the element. Okay? So nitrogen becomes dinitrogen, oxide becomes trioxide. For the compound's name, complete would be dinitrogen trioxide. Okay? And you got to remember, first element, you name it. Second element, change the root ending to IDE and make sure that you indicate the number of atoms using prefixes. All right? That's just one example. Let's try this example that you have here. Sorry about my cat. She's crazy. All right, so examples for compounds of N and O. So we got element N and element O. Guys, you might have to come back into Google Meet so that you can see the example because I'm going to do it on Jamboard. Oops. That's not supposed to be there. Hold on. Okay. All right. So now that we have our examples and you didn't see that little blunder I did, we're going to name these compounds, right? All of them have the same elements. They both have N, they all have N, and they all have O. Name your first element and do not change its name. Students, can you post or come off mute and tell me the name of N? We can go to our periodic table. What's the name of N according to our periodic table? What's the name of N, guys? Students? N is for nitrogen. Thank you. Hello, anybody out there? Nitrogen. What's the name of O? Oxygen. And remember, your O is your second element. Make sure you drop the ending and add IDE. All right. So when I type it up here, let me type it up. Excuse me. Number 1. So I'm going to start off by just writing the name of the first element, not changing it. Changing oxygen to oxide, right? Because it ends in IDE. Thanks, Oscar. But now I need to include prefixes for my subscripts. What are the prefixes that you don't see for the elements N and O? What are my subscripts, guys? What is the number that's behind N and O? What is the imaginary number that we always know is there, but we never see? What do you think? How many fingers am I holding up, Oscar? 1. According to your table right here, what is the prefix for 1? Looking at the chat, mono. Very good. Now, if you look at the rules, let's look at the rules real quick about the prefix because there's something important. It says at the very bottom, do not use mono for the first element. Both of them technically should have mono, but according to the rules, we cannot use it, right? So, I can't use it for the first one, but can I use it for the second? Can I use mono for the second element? The rule said I can't use it for first, but there was no rule that said I can't use it for the second. So yes, technically, I can use mono for your second element. So the name of this compound would end up being nitrogen monoxide. All right, for your second compound. The elements do not change. I still have nitrogen, I still have oxygen, but my subscript for nitrogen is still a 1. I cannot use mono because it is the first element. But what is my prefix for O if there's a 2? Di. Thanks, Oscar. I see it. So if we use the information Oscar provided, the information I provided, we end up with a name of nitrogen dioxide for the second one. Great teamwork, Oscar, right? Number 3, same elements. All right. What are my prefixes, guys? What is the prefix for the element nitrogen? What is the prefix for oxygen? Can you guys give me that? How many nitrogens do I have for number 3? Dinitrogen. Very good, Oscar. Dinitrogen. Okay, what about O? What's the prefix that I'm going to use for O? What would be the name of O for number 3? Monoxide. Very good, sir. Monoxide. My final answer, dinitrogen monoxide. Very good. Okay. I still have the same elements, so I'm going to put those in. But what are the prefix I need for number 4? Could you try that one? Try number 4. Because it seems that Oscar is on a roll today. Yesterday was all Irvin. Today it's all Oscar. Very good, sir. Since I have 2 nitrogens, 4 oxygens, right? I need to include that prefix for 2, which is di. I need to include the prefix for 4, which so happens to be tetra oxide. Tetra oxide. Now, you could have put the A, but it's always preferred not to. What about number 5, Oscar? Or Irvin? What would be the name for number 5? You got still nitrogen and oxygen, right? Nitrogen oxide, but I am missing prefixes. What are my prefixes? Look at Oscar. Dinitrogen. Thank you, sir. And 5 is pent, right? Pent. Again, the A is not needed. Okay? If you would have put it, Oscar, I wouldn't have counted it wrong. It's not wrong. It's just anytime your element starts with a vowel, you're going to let that A go and you're just going to start, you're going to let it go and you're just going to put in the element's vowel. All right. Any questions here? Any questions on this one? Any questions? Yes or no? Let me see who's listening. Any questions? Yes or no? Oscar says no. What about you, Alexia, Mario, Melissa? Any questions? Irvin, any questions, Irvin?
No, ma'am.
Anything else you need from me on this example? All right. If there are no questions, then you should have no problem doing the Pear Deck. Let me just delete this right now. All right, let's go into Pear Deck.
Yes, I'm having an internet connection problem.
It's fine. Just try your best. All right, Oscar's here. Irvin's here. I got you, boy.
Okay,
All right, I'm going to issue out some practice. All right. Number 1, Yalexia. And if you need my help, Yalexia, don't worry. I'll help you. Number 2, Melissa. Number 3, I want Irvin to try it if his internet will allow him. 4, Mario. 5, Oscar. All right, let's see how many we can do. Okay. Try them out, guys. I'll do number 6. Don't worry about number 6. I'll do number 6. All right, Yalexia. What's the name of C? What's the name of O? Let's look them up. Ready, Alexia? C, right here. What's the name of C? Miss Yalexia. You available, Yalexia? Are you working in Pear Deck? Nope, I don't have any responses. All right, help me out, guys. Yeah, Alexia's probably busy with her brothers and sisters. What's the name of C?
Carbon.
What's the name of O?
Oxygen.
I think it was O, right? Hold on. Yes. Okay. So go in there, Irvin. Or are you in Pear Deck? Oh no, you got here late. I need somebody to help me do the typing for the examples. Can somebody go in here and do the typing of the names for me? Okay. So we got carbon, we got oxygen. Oxygen needs to change to IDE. How would you write that? Oxygen. Oxide, correct. Now I got one of each. I got one carbon and one oxygen. What's the prefix that I need to use for both of those? There's only one. What's the prefix for one? Mono, right? Mono. Mono. It's monoxide. Monoxide. Okay. But is it Irvin? Irvin, is that you in there? Or who is it? Who's doing the typing for me? Who's doing the typing? Can I know who it is? Is it you, Irvin? Raise your hand if it's you. Okay. Oh, it's Oscar. Okay. Oscar, are you supposed to use, or I don't know who it is. Oscar, are you supposed to use mono for the first element according to the rules? So, do we need to take that off for carbon? There it is. Very good, sir. Okay. Number 2, Melissa, are you ready? Melissa, are you ready? What's the name of PBR5? PBR5, Melissa. You got the second one. All right. What's the name of P? Let's look it up. P. Phosphorus, right there. Phosphorus. Type that in. Phosphorus. BR, over here. Bromine. Everybody see it? Bromine. Okay, let me go back to Pear Deck. Write that in there, Oscar. Phosphorus and bromine. Phosphorus, bromine. Phosphorus, bromine. There it is, Melissa. Okay, remember your second element, Mel. It needs to end in IDE. Take off the INE and add IDE in the chat. I'm watching. All right. Melissa already typed in that the first element is called phosphorus. The second element is called bromine, but she's going to change the ending to bromine and put bromide, right, Mel? Bromide. IDE. Ended in IDE, mija. Change the ending. Okay. Now, remember, you only have one phosphorus. One means mono, but you cannot use mono for the first one, okay, Mel? But for bromine, you have to put the prefix for 5. According to this, it says right here,